what's your philosophy on going back to certain themes that give the audience that familiarity, I suppose?
For me, I try to be as disciplined as I can about when I use them. Like, it's got to mean something. It's not just see Nadia, hear Nadia. It's got to mean something. So and again, I cannot praise her performance enough. It was just truly incredible. Priyanka's performance in this, I followed her eyes. So
Yeah.
she does so much brilliant storytelling without saying a word, just in her eyes. So I would follow that. And when she would deliver a line or look a certain way, that's when I knew, like, okay, this moment means something. So this is a good moment for the tune. And if she didn't do that, then I just shied away from using the tune there and maybe pedaled water for a little bit. So again, I try to take my lead from what's happening on screen, obviously, but the bigger perspective is, hey, where are we at in this story? We've got 6 episodes. We're spanning this giant global story. Where are we at in this moment? And does that call for a statement of the theme or not? Because you can outstay, a theme can outstay its welcome very, very quickly, and you can beat an audience over the head with it to the point where by the time you're in episode 3, they're sick of it. So that was a lot, we did do that. By the time we got to episode 3, there were places in 1 and 2, because we were working on it simultaneously, where David and Joe and Anthony and I, and we just went, we got to thin out some tune in episode 2. We've used it a little bit too much, and that's part of the process.
Yeah, it would be so gimmicky if you kept going back to that well. And I think you just found the right balance, because I was looking forward to it. And then when it happened, I'd be like, there it is. So much of the score features these dense, propulsive, muscular elements that propel the narrative as they should, with a variety of instrumentation, percussion, and strings, and so forth. A great example for me is Red Cell Mission. It's intense, it's relentless. So what's the key for you as composer to ratcheting up tension for an audience orally?
I think the biggest thing is you actually gotta start where you can't go. You can't get ahead of yourself in a scene like that, with this big sequence. You can't start too big too early. You have to give yourself some headroom. And the sort of flip side to that is you've got to learn how to reset, because you can only peak, music can only get so loud before you have to reset and do it again. So that was, I think, the big lesson on that scene is, how do we peak? Because there's lots of peaks in that sequence. There's lots of moments where everything's really intense, and you've got to the music has to match that, but you still got to leave yourself some headroom to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so instead of like maybe not getting to a certain point, it's go to that point, but then find a way to reset, and the bread and butter stuff is do a key change or switch the instrumentation. But that was a lot of that scene, was figuring that out, was, okay, how do we keep this build and keep this intensity going? We got to start high, and then we got to get even higher, or at least have the perception that we got there. And a lot of that was just trial and error. Again, you take some swings and foul off 2 balls, and then you step back up to the plate and try it again. And the editing really helped that scene. It was so well put together that it had its own tempo, and it had its own downshifts when it needed it. So, a lot of my job in that was just sort of taking my lead from editorial and from the story itself and the sequence in general.